Welcome back to the Gracefully Wild Soul podcast. I am so thrilled to be back with you this week. I am fresh off of spring break with my kids, and so I have maybe a hint of a cold. So please bear with me today as we talk about my absolute most favorite topic. It is my primary modality. It is what I weave into my work with my clients and also what is woven through my life in a day-to-day way. And that is the Akashic Records. Yay! So excited to talk to you about the Akashic Records today. This is where everything just feels so right and so at home. So let's go ahead and dive in. Welcome to the Gracefully Wild Soul podcast. I'm Kirsten, a mother and soul guide, and this is a space where your soul is witnessed and the frequency of your heart is felt. Together, we will have intimate conversations about the essence of life, the beauty of your soul's path, and our evolution as women and as mothers. Through channeled words, lived experiences, and the wisdom of nature's rhythms, the soul, and the sacred feminine, this is where the gracefully wild woman begins to rise. Let's talk about the Akashic Records from a point of view of curiosity. And it's kind of just like that little, soft landing place before we dive into what the Akashic Records are. And this little landing place is kind of in this realm of curiosity. Maybe you've heard of the Akashic Records, maybe you have not. But what I have found is that most people that kind of come across the Akashic Records, whether by general understanding of what they are and or the actual name, the Akashic Records, there's like this little light bulb that goes off, this little curiosity that begins to flag, like, oh my gosh, like what are the Akashic Records? Please tell me. And there's like this innate drive to understand and know more. And so if that's you, welcome. You are in the right place, because that, number one, is such a huge driving force to your relationship with the Akashic Records. And if there's not like this kind of visceral reaction or this light bulb that's going off for you, that's not an indication that you don't have a relationship with the Akashic Records. Everyone does. It's just a matter of how you connect with them and where you are in that connection process. So the curiosity, the things that I find people are driven to learn more about the Akashic Records through this kind of curiosity, this soft landing place, is usually around this idea of clarity. And this comes in a million different directions, a million different formats, and I've seen it in a variety of different ways. Clarity being someone is really truly seeking more clarity in their life, just as like kind of a general principle. But another way that I've seen this kind of curiosity through clarity manifest through clients or even myself is really in this idea of forming a relationship with higher source and connecting with that source. And so the clarity being, hey, like I'm here. I'm on this planet and I have this life and I'm wondering why. Like it's the big why question. Like what's the meaning of me, of my life, and why I'm here? What's my purpose? And so this idea of clarity is actually really tied into and woven deeply into this concept of your soul's purpose and why you are here, like why you are here living this life at this moment with, this family in this location and all of the things that come along with that. And so finding clarity in that connection to your life, but also through higher source, through a power that maybe you can't see and touch. And so we'll get into that a little bit more. And that kind of leads me into the next curiosity landing place, is that a lot of times people land at the Akashic Records because they've tried everything else. And this is like a last resort. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that they have dabbled in all the woo-woo things. They've dabbled in all the spirituality things. They've tried tarot cards. They've received readings. They've bought a deck. They, maybe bought some crystals, or they've had a psychic reading, or some of these other kind of different flavors of spirituality and connecting to some sort of higher source, even the version of their highest self. And none of them have either quite landed, or there just hasn't been the clarity that they desire and or need in that moment. And so ultimately this kind of path ends, brings you to the Akashic Records. And so there is this deep curiosity that drives people to the Akashic Records. And that, again, manifests itself in so many different ways. So I just want to put that out there, because if you have this, curiosity, I just invite you to explore it and what your connection looks like to the Akashic Records, because everyone's connection is different. So as I kind of guide you through this episode and we talk about the Akashic Records, this is from my point of view. This is my experience with the Akashic Records and how I view them and how I experience them. It does not mean your experience is wrong. You are most likely having an experience that you haven't maybe materialized yet to understand that that's what's happening. And so just, honor your own experience, whatever that might be. These are just words of guidance through my own experience. Okay. What are the Akashic Records? Oh, okay. The Akashic Records. You might have heard this description, or you, again, might have heard someone describe the Akashic Records before. And the most kind of plain vanilla description out there is that it is an energetic library of your soul's experiences, memories, emotions, past lives, current life, and or the future frequency of your soul. So, some sort of version of that you may or may not have heard of when speaking about the Akashic Records. But I want to hone in on this idea of a library. So I use this term, and you will often hear other practitioners use this term as well. And that is for two reasons. Number one, we are souls living in these human bodies with these human experiences. And we have a brain. We have a brain that connects, throughout our body to move our arms, our legs, and help us, metabolize this world in different ways. And so our brain is a logical entity, and it needs something tangible to understand. So I use the term library in order to kind of give you that little piece, or that little kind of look at what the Akashic Records might appear as. And it might appear as some sort of library, some sort of, location that contains a lot of information. It's also been described as like an iCloud, right? Like, or the internet, everything that's uploaded into this space that we don't really know where it is, or we haven't seen it. We don't know where this iCloud storage exists. Like, think of the Akashic Records. And I also use the term library because of this reason as well. Like, it houses so much wisdom that the only way to really describe it is as a library or a compendium. So essentially that something that accumulates, brings all of this data and information and wisdom into one place. It really contains patterns from all of your past lives. It contains your soul's lessons, soul's agreements, and all of the potential that your soul has to manifest and live in this life and in future lives. So, to me, really, the Akashic Records is like an energetic blueprint of your soul's existence over its entire lifespan. And so I use the term library or some of these other words just to kind of hone in on some sort of tangible piece, because we do need a little bit of that tangible idea to realize what it is that we're working with. And eventually it will become more familiar. But I say this with a grain of salt, and I did say this earlier. I really want you to connect in a way that feels good to you. So even though I'm using the word library, which could absolutely appear like you're walking into a massive library full of books and it, has this the scent of paper and all of these different things, it doesn't actually have to appear that way to you. The Akashic Records can appear in a variety of different ways. And in fact, I'll get into that a bit. When I go into an Akashic Records room, nobody's room is the same. And that's because your soul is not the same as the soul next door, right? Think about homes, think about houses, the doors, the windows, the roofs, the colors. Nothing is the same. And that's true of your soul, right? Your soul is unique. It is a divine essence that only belongs to you. And so how that manifests and how it looks is different. But again, just to kind of metabolize in a more logical way, I will use the term library and I will describe, generally the appearance to me does appear as some sort of library. But again, connect to your version of the Akashic Records. Okay, so I want to talk about how I open the Akashic Records. Everyone has a different way to open the Akashic Records, and there's, once again, no right or wrong. Now, there will be some practitioners out there that are very adamant about opening the records with an opening prayer. And there are a lot of prayers out there. One of the primary teachers of the prayer method is Linda Howe, and she uses a repetitive prayer in order to open the records. And I'm going to dive into my experience with this a little bit, just so you have a glimpse, because for me, I don't use a prayer and I don't need a prayer to open the records. And that was the truth from day one. And so I'm going to rewind the clock a little bit. When I was kind of going through this training in the background, I use training loosely. If I had a video, you could see my air quotes. But this reconnection to my intuition. I, did these courses to come back into coherence with my intuitive self, to find my inner voice. And there were a variety of things that we did in order to do that. And one of the things that was introduced during this course was the Akashic Records. Now, at the time, in this lifetime, I had never heard of the Akashic Records. Never. And I was like, oh, what are those? Right, there's that curiosity cue. And so we did a meditation to drop into the Akashic Records, and it was all over from there, friends. I remember this experience vividly. I was actually taking a bath. It was one of those moments of my mom trying to squeeze it all in, and I was lawyering at the time. And so this was, my for fun experiment type of thing. And I was taking a bath, listening to the meditation, and I just lost it. I completely started wailing and crying in this way that you probably have had before, but it was like this, the moment of feeling so seen and recognized from the inside out, even though there was nobody in the room, right? This meditation's pre-recorded. I'm not talking to anyone, but I just had this incredible remembering come back to me. And it was like a piece of my soul just came back in that moment. And I was just beside myself. I was just releasing all of this emotion and all of this pent up energy that clearly I had been withholding from myself and from the world. And so I went through this whole meditation and I had this incredible experience. And I remember we would meet up with the group. I don't know if it was that week, but it was, it was like weekly. So I don't remember if it was that week after I listened to the meditation or it was like a week later. But the experience that I had, which I ultimately went on to describe to the group, was that I I had been here. Like I had, yes, in this lifetime not heard of the Akashic Records. But when I arrived at the Akashic Records in this meditation, I had arrived home. Like I felt at home and I was welcomed. I was welcomed back by the Akashic Records keeper, the keeper of the keys. And this just, was so profound for me in this moment. And this remembering had flooded back, this remembering of my experience at the Akashic Records as being a keeper of the records at one point in a prior lifetime. And so the method that I learned when opening the Akashic Records was not with a prayer. And that worked for me. I didn't need the prayer. And that's because I have a long lifeline connection to the Akashic Records. And so that prayer wasn't needed for me. Now, it's again not right or wrong to need one or to use one. Everyone accesses the records differently. That is, essentially a key to your remembering. It's how you open and unlock the Akashic Records. And for me, I don't need that, kind of mechanism to open and unlock the records. I go through my own journey to arrive there. And that's, kind of the experience that I had, not only in this guided meditation, but deep in my practice, like how it actually manifested for me. And so I just want you to remember that when and if, more like when you access the Akashic Records, because I have faith that you are going to access the Akashic Records, that your access is going to look and feel exactly as it needs to for you, for your soul. So if that is a prayer, then that is a prayer. If it is not a prayer, then it is not a prayer. So once again, just honoring your experience. And so for me, I do not access the records through a prayer. I go through kind of a multi-step journey all the way up to the upper world where the Akashic Records lives. Okay, so that leads me into kind of my next piece, how I experience the records. And look, there's so much I could talk about, so many layers here. And I promise you, I will most likely be back with part 2, part 3, part 4, etc. And you will hear me talk about, the Akashic Records in different ways throughout different episodes. But this is a kind of a primer, again, like a 101. I just want to kind of set the stage for you to get familiar with the Akashic Records and what it's like for me to work with them and how I work with them. So how I personally experience the Akashic Records. These are the 5 ways that I could really distill down to how I experience the records. First, through my clairvoyance. I am a clairvoyant. That is one of my primary clairs, one of my primary gifts, is that I go through an actual visual experience, a visual journey. And that is true for every time I access a client's Akashic Records. And you have your own records room, okay? So let me just make that clear. Your soul has its own Akashic Records room. So when I go to access the Akashic Records as kind of like a broad collective, soul library, your soul has its own room. Okay. So When I go to access the records, whether it's for you or for the collective or for myself, my experience is primarily through clairvoyance. So that can look like a million different things. I have been on so many different journeys and experiences. It's honestly hard to describe into words. It truly is something that I feel and I witness and experience in my body, which is kind of leads me to my next one, which is clairsentience. So using these two clairs, what this has looked like in the past is I will be quite literally pulled into a past life, and I will be observing and witnessing one of your past lives play out as if I'm watching a movie. Like, press play, here's a movie, this is your past life. Like, if you were to go play, again, a movie or a show like Vikings or something like that, I'm like, oh, this person had a past life as a Viking. And I see, I'm given a frame, I'm given an experience, a moment where I am there to witness and gather the energy and the information in order to bring it back to you. So I will quite literally go through this visual experience. I will be taken there. And so even though I'm having this clairvoyant experience, I'm also having this clairsentient experience, this feeling inside of my body. So I will get these sensations. I will be having full visceral experiences. There are times where I will be crying during your reading. I will be shaking or feeling the fear in my body because I am quite literally in the experience of your soul in that moment. And so those are two of the ways that I really experience the records. And this could be, again, a past life. It could be this life as well. It could be something that I'm just meant to witness. It could be a symbol. It could be some other experience that I'm visually seeing or feeling. And I'm reading that energy. I'm understanding the messages and I'm bringing it back to you. So, another way that I experience the records is this deep knowing, this automatic hit. And so, this actually will happen in a variety of different ways. I might intentionally be sitting for someone, reading their records, and I will just get an instant message, like an instant knowing, and I write it down. So, I'm not necessarily experiencing this past life or something that's happened in this current life or something that might happen, down the line. There's just words and information that comes directly to me and I write it down. And this will manifest in my day-to-day life too. So if I'm not reading for a client and I'm just kind of out and about, the records now just come to me. And so before I had this relationship, this connection with the records, because that's really what this is about. The Akashic Records is a living, breathing energy. Okay. And like everything that we experience in this world, which is also a living, breathing energy, we have relationships with the thing, the energy, the whatever it is. And the deeper that we have this relationship, that we connect, the more that we're going to get out of it in a variety of different ways. And so for me in my day-to-day life, I might be on like a walk where I'm just like, hey, I'm going to go move my body, walk outside, get some fresh air, and bam, bam, bam. I will get messages that just come to me, and I know that they're coming from the records. They're coming directly to me. I'm not sitting in meditation and going on my journey to open the records. I just have that direct line. And that comes with the relationship. That comes with the practice. That comes with how I have built, this symbiotic and kind and loving relationship with the records. So, kind of to piggyback off of those other three, two of the other ways that I experience the records are through symbols and emotional resonance. So, symbols, again, they come to me in a variety of different ways. So, there is a bit of that clairvoyance where I see a symbol. And initially, that's the thing to think about is when you're reading for someone, including yourself, there are times where this clarity needs time to breathe. Just because I'm accessing the records doesn't mean that like I'm chat GPT and or whatever AI, and I'm like, here's your step one, here's your step two, it doesn't work quite that way. There is certainly guidance, and you certainly can get step-by-step guidance, but energy is living and breathing. It is moving. This is not a static experience. And so even though you're accessing the records at a certain time, and I use time loosely, but you're accessing it at a certain time, timelines can change. Things can shift based on different momentum and how you move with the energy. And so, symbols in the moment, what I will do, whether that's, again, I'm reading for someone else or myself or just kind of going through day to day life, I'll take note. And if it's for a client, I will usually share that symbol. And often, once we start talking about it and symbolically, there's so much there, it begins to manifest itself. The messages begin to just fill themselves out. They begin to weave into the story. And so the clarity is an important piece about the Akashic Records because, again, this is not a quote unquote computer system that you're putting in 1 + 1 = 2. It's not that, it's not set up that way. And it's not how it works. Okay, emotional resonance. So, emotional resonance can come in again through that clairsentience. So, maybe I had this kind of sensation happening, but also that emotional resonance does come in through your energetic aura. So, how I'm experiencing your aura, not only in the present moment, but also through the records, it it lands in my body, and I use that really as a foundational piece to weave together everything else that's happening. Because ultimately, when we go to the records, yes, we don't want to have this, oh, I saw a triangle here and a person there, and then go and try to create a formula to figure out what that means. Like, we are there to move through an emotional experience, and that requires storytelling. That requires a deeper connection to the energy, whether that energy is from the past, the present, or the future. And so that emotional resonance is really important, and it ties together everything else. So that's kind of how I experience the records. And I want to go through some FAQs, questions maybe that have popped off for you, or you're kind of thinking as we go through this episode. The first being, which comes up more often than you would think, is what can I ask the records? And people definitely get a little intimidated by what they want to ask. There is, once again, no defined question that you cannot or can ask the records. The records are going to deliver everything that you need in this moment. And so, I have two answers to this question. You can ask the records anything, really anything. It can be down to a date, a person, a job. It can be really about anything. And the answer that you're going to get is going to be the answer that you are meant to receive. And sometimes that could be an exact date. Sometimes that could be a name. It could be an image. It could be something that's very specific. And sometimes we can receive an answer that maybe on first blush, we're like, that's not what we asked. That's not what I wanted to know. But over time, it will become clear why that is the answer to the question that you asked. So you can ask anything. I always recommend, if you have a specific question, ask it, because you will get specific guidance. And the records are incredible for getting specific guidance. So, specific questions tend to be more beneficial if you are looking for a bit more of that next step versus if we go into the records and say, just, tell me what I need to know, which you will receive plenty, don't get me wrong, and it is beneficial. But sometimes the volume can be maybe not what you need in that moment. And I say that with just a hint of sarcasm because you're always going to get what you need. Nonetheless, it can feel overwhelming if we go in with this very generalized kind of openness. And so, even if we have a bit more of the specifics, it can just be that more directive. Okay, can the Akashic Records tell me my future? Yes and no. That's always going to be my answer to almost everything. Yes and no. Okay, so as I said before, the Akashic Records holds energy and essentially the energy of your soul from the past, present, and future. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to or can predict down to the day and time and the moment, every little second, exactly what's going to happen. Because so many things, but because on a general level, energy is always moving and shifting, and so are you. So when you ask a specific question about something that's going to happen in the future, in that moment, you're going to get a response that is accurate to the trajectory of your energy at that moment. But the moment that energy changes or shifts, that response is not necessarily inaccurate, but it is going to shift and change accordingly. And so I say yes, no, because the Akashic Records absolutely can be used for timeline prediction. It can read the energy. Let's say right now we are in the month of April. Yes, I can read the energy for May, June, July, August. I can do that for you. I can do that for the collective. And it's going to provide guidance. But again, timelines change. There is free will. Things move and shift accordingly. And so it's not like the crystal ball experience in what the movies, might show you. Okay. Can you see past lives in the Akashic Records? Absolutely, 1000%. One of the best things about the Akashic Records, honestly. To me, this is what sets apart modalities, specifically the Akashic Records, from other modalities. There are incredible modalities out there, but not all of them have the same energetic draw or connection to your soul and to the line of your soul. I would say the closest to the Akashic Records is going to be astrology, but tarot, yes, you can, do past life readings. And there are other modalities like cardology and, tea leaf reading. And there's so many things out there that are all beautiful and they all serve an incredible purpose. But the Akashic Records can give you such a clear delineation of your soul's past lives and how that's manifesting in this life. And so I truly love it for past life readings. And yeah, it's one of my favorite things. Okay, what can it heal? Well, let's talk about that word heal for just a quick minute. You are your own healer. So there's nothing outside of you that is going to heal you. So I'm going to caveat my response with that you are the healer of your life. What you need to change, evolve, grow into, release, say goodbye to, welcome into your life, all of those things, that is part of your journey, and that is within you. You hold the capacity and the power to do that. The records or any other modality for that fact or for that matter can't do that for you. Only you can. And so what the Akashic Records can do is it can show you a divine mirror. It can hold up a mirror and allow you to remember who you are, who your most true and authentic self is, what your divine essence looks and feels like, and what your path and purpose is in this lifetime. That's what the records can do. So ultimately, as you decide to connect with that, as you decide to maybe move towards something or away from something, yes, a byproduct is certainly going to happen, and that is going to be part of your healing journey. So that's how I see the records for everyone. Okay, last question, because I'm sure we will have part 2 of this episode because there's definitely more to cover. But how might the records help with motherhood or business or your soul's path and purpose, or even just kind of life in general? It can help in so many different ways. Again, as I said before, coming to the records with a specific question can give you the guidance that you need around that area in your life. And that can be anything. Like I said, it really can be about anything. It could be like, why am I struggling in motherhood? It could be, what is my next move with my business or my job? What is the career that's most aligned with my gifts? Like, these are all questions that can be asked, that can be focused on in the records. What is my soul's path right now? Am I on path? Am I off path? What is my soul's purpose? Am I manifesting and living that purpose right now? So it can be tied back to all of those questions that we talked about, asking a specific question or a general question. It can be really about anything that you need or want in your life, and it can provide the guidance that is meant for you in this moment. Yeah. So that is a little primer on the Akashic Records and what they are, how I experience them, and some of the kind of main highlight questions that you might have around the records. If you have something specific that you want me to address about the Akashic Records in another episode, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to drop a comment on this episode. And again, I always would love and appreciate a rating, a review, or reach out. Just say hi. Let me know you're there. All right. I will catch you on the next episode. Bye. Thank you, love, for being here. May you walk forward guided by the wild wisdom of your soul and the truth of your heart. To find me beyond the podcast, you can join my newsletter at soulbabe.com for continual updates on offerings and other teachings, or subscribe to the Gracefully Wild Soul Substack. Until next time.